Hello, I'm Russ Randall, the founder of Austrian Enginomics. It's a blend of Austrian economic theory and engineering. I have a unique cocktail party question that's a macroeconomic question that could change the world if it becomes viral. So gather your friends at the next party and pose the following question to them. The question is, if all levels of government cut taxes to zero and collected no taxes or fees whatsoever, but continued paying for all government functions and programs that exist today, then would we be taxed? Again, if all government levels cut taxes to zero and collected taxes, no taxes or fees whatsoever, would we be taxed? Webster's dictionary and the politicians would say, no, you've cut taxes to zero. All others would recognize, the truth and acknowledge, of course we'd be taxed somehow. Clearly then, the real tax is not simply revenue collected. Here's the government spending level, and here's the government revenue level, and here's zero. So spending, revenue, zero. The gap between the revenue and the spending is funded by the issuance and sales of new treasuries. In my cocktail party question, would we be taxed? We means the citizens of the sovereign. So, if revenue collected is not the real tax, then what is it? The real tax is the actual level of direct or indirect labor and natural resource utilization authorized by government, whether those resources are government employees, contractors of government work, suppliers of food, medicine, capital goods, or etc., to fulfill a government purpose. The real tax happens in real time, every minute of every day, and can never be recovered. Given that real tax is labor, spent labor can never be recovered. This is in sharp contrast to a tax-paying individual or business parting with some of his hard-earned money and transferring it to a government entity, which is the traditional context of the term tax. To elaborate, the only way for government to consume or transfer wealth is to somehow acquire it in the first place. Its source could be current taxpayers or treasury investors. Regardless, those receiving it will consume it, and it will never be recovered. Hence, the ultimate real tax that is transferred or consumed is a final manifestation of the labor and natural resources allocated to a government purpose. The real tax is a very high correlation, very high, to government spending. An interesting question then is, would we be taxed if the tax revenue was utilized to repay treasury debt? The answer is no. The intertemporal promise by government to satisfy a bond redemption demand from a treasury investor who sacrificed to purchase it initially may never happen. This tax collected later to redeem the bond investors is not the real tax. Government could default, or they could repay in a currency diluted in value, inflation, far diluted in value, which is technically a partial default. The citizenry was really taxed when the bonds were issued and sold. Then proceeds were utilized to extract or consume, or transfer real wealth produced by labor to satisfy a government purpose. I refer to this tax to repay treasury holders as the Gesert tax. It's called Government Security Investor Redemption Tax. This GSIRT, or Gesert tax, is an effort to spread the tax burden to taxpayers of the future, so an intertemporal tax burden transfer. Remember, the real tax was spent when the labor was allocated for a government purpose in the first place. The tax burden may be shifted It is very likely that the future taxpayers facing a government attempt to collect more tax revenue than spending would fully rebuke the idea and fire the politicians. Consequently, the Fed would revert to debasing the currency. That's inflation, which harms those holding the debt securities and dollars today. It's not the children or grandchildren. Again, it's not the children or grandchildren. It's those holding these debt securities, these treasury debt securities today, that become diluted and get wiped out, or significantly debased and diluted in value and buying power. We are experiencing the most extraordinary debt bubble in the history of the Republic, which government debt is only a portion. Remember, the real tax is not simply tax revenue collected. It's very close to government spending. If a politician advocates the extension of the Bush tax cuts or cutting the Social Security payroll tax, it has very little to do with the real tax. Again, real tax is the spending. Sadly, government debt is an illusion of wealth which is growing parabolically. When the illusion is discovered by the masses, it will be a very bad hair day. Now, please forward this cocktail party question video link to your friends and let's make it go viral. Let's learn what is the real tax for a change. Thanks. Good day.